Hello and welcome to the second episode of the Batch Report already. Second one this week. Thank God. Jackson, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, and I'm your host, Braydon Leadbetter.
And I'm your co-host, Jackson Daleen.
And yeah, we're here to talk about episode 2, Cut and Run of the Bad Batch. Now, did the title give it away for you that we were going to see Cut LaQuaine in there?
Actually, no, it didn't. Just because I forgot about those characters. I guess
How
just
dare
initially
you forget about my boy Cut?
Well, it was like once I saw them, I was just like, oh, it was like I know who these are, and we talked about it last episode with you theorized that, and I was like, Braydon was right about it. So
what's kind of your overall reaction to the episode?
I think it's funny. This felt very much like a Clone Wars episode.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. Even the animation style is much closer to the Clone Wars.
Yeah, it had kind of that childlike sense to it. It felt like kind of the old cartoon. It felt like that transition in Clone Wars when they were like, it's still kid, but like all of the things that are being said are really adult. So it's just like you have to kind of
teaching you some stuff.
It was definitely actually a fun episode because I liked the minimal character work that they did. That it wasn't like this huge outright thing, but it was enough that it introduced what at least Hunter and Omega will be going through.
Yeah, and I think we'll get into it in a second, but I think Omega has a really, really great. She almost has like a little arc through this episode. And I think her character in this episode is really great, and we get to see her interact with kids for the first time, her be off planet for the first time.
Right.
So all these, she's going through all these changes and stuff. But are there any standout moments that you liked in this episode?
Some of the combat was kind of fun in this episode, the little bit of Hunter taking out clone troopers, which I kind of I didn't hardcore gas, but I kind of to myself when he started shooting clone troopers, he started killing them. You can kind of see the mindsets that the Bad Batch have still, like Tech was only stunning them, and Echo's trying to talk his way out of it, and I mean Wrecker wants to smash anything, but it's Hunter doesn't necessarily care anymore.
What
about you?
One of my favorite moments, I think, was whenever Omega gets off the ship for the first time, and she takes a handful of dirt, and she's like, "What is
just
this?"
Soaks
and
in the sun.
Tech's just that's dirt. She's like, "It's so beautiful." I just I didn't quite put together that this is the first time that she's ever even not been on an industrial, Camino and planet.
And it kind of confirms that Camino never has a sun. Camino never has full daylight, so it's always dark and overcast. So just even when she walked out and she covers her face, and then it's just what is this? It's just that
the realization she has of there's more to the galaxy than just rain and clones. What did you think of just how the transition from the Republic to Empire, and they have to have all these what are the codes, chain codes and all that
registering
kind of thing.
Ships and well, I kind of like how instant everything is changing, and it's this weird there's this chaos in the galaxy of just everybody kind of understands that what their planet will be used for, probably, and it's so confusing of times that everyone's just trying to kind of run and hide and just see I would assume everyone's trying to go to the core worlds because those are probably the people that have it together the most.
I don't know. I think some people are just trying to get as far away from the Empire as possible.
Some people are just trying to
where
just get out.
Where do you go?
Right,
Tatooine? I kind of expected there to be an immediate switch flip as soon as the Empire takes over, and all the clones immediately they switch the chip in their head and they're immediately in a Stormtrooper Empire mindset. It's so weird because whenever Cut was getting on the transport ship to leave the planet, a clone trooper stops him.
He stops him. He's you look
you kinda look like us.
Well, and And I think that they have like kind of switched the flip to where they're all kind of in this like Imperial stormtrooper like robot. I just follow orders now.
Yeah. Well, because you notice that like even the first episode, none of them have any unique qualities anymore. It's all just they all wear the white suits with like the flat top haircut, and they're like totally vanilla, like personality-less.
Yeah. What did you think about? We'll probably see Captain Rex in the next episode.
Yeah, I think we'll see him soon.
They're close on his trail, so
yeah. What did they say about him this time? That
it seems like he's investigating what 66 was.
That's right.
I think he's looking into the Five's investigation.
Yeah, and they're all first learning about the inhibitor chip too.
Yeah,
and they're like, what?
I think it's interesting that Omega just knew it off the top. Well, and Tech 2 was like, how did you think they were being programmed?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. I really did like the whole whenever they're first going. I didn't know that the Bad Batch and Cut and his family were like had a history, because
I didn't either. I think that was just
Uncle
kind
Wrecker
of the
comes in. And they're like, hey, Uncle Wrecker.
It seems that like they've like that family before obviously this episode, they were running as like an underground railroad spot for clones. It was essentially clones were coming in and out, and they were like, it's getting too dangerous for us, so we're leaving. But I wonder what they did during the war that at least benefited the Bad Batch. You know, were they someone of intel? Were they just a safe space? Were they like a hideout that they could use?
I would assume so, because, you know, being the defected clone that Cut is, I would expect that he's basically like this safe haven for any kind of lost, broken, defected clones.
Right.
And you know, it's I wanted to talk about this at the end, but I'm going to talk about it now because it's so funny. I already mentioned Wrecker. At the end when he's curling the gonk droid.
Did you notice when Tech and Echo are about to get in the shootout, and the group that Hunter and Wrecker and Cut and Sue and all of them are like in, when they walk into the street, Wrecker hits his head on like the little overarch like the stormtrooper does in A New Hope. He bumps his hat and kind of holds himself for a sec, but it never draws attention to it because then it's like Hunter talking to Tech.
I noticed that. I just didn't connect it to A New Hope.
That's what I thought of, at least, when he bumped his head. I was like,
supposed to be like an homage. Yeah. Why do you think that Omega didn't want to go with the family, with Cut's family, for a new life?
Well, I think, especially without getting into like the theories of it, I think it's just that Omega she understands that Hunter says it himself. He's like, she's a defective clone, like we all are. Yeah. And I think that's like the Bad Batch is where Omega found kind of her quote unquote calling. It's the people she wants to be with and surround herself with. You can kind of tell in the first episode she idolizes this team,
especially Hunter.
Yeah, and I think getting into the theories, I think it's also that she's somewhat connected to them, and a secret plot reason.
You think so?
Yeah, I think she has something to do with just the team specifically, going into whatever we were talking about of what her abilities might be. I think it has to do with the team specifically. It's got something to do with that.
Yeah, I think there's this one moment, because I remember last episode we talked about how maybe Omega is like a combination of all of the skills of each of the members of the Bad Batch has. There's this moment in this episode where Tech is like doing the chain code kind of encryption thing, and then it like tilts up to Omega, and she's like, well, do you think that was because she was like, why are you doing an extra one? Or do you think she was like, that's interesting, I bet I could do that?
When was this?
This was whenever they're on their ship, and Tech is on there after they steal the card things for the chain codes, and he's
doing
like
the thing,
everything, and it shows Tech doing that, and the camera kind of tilts up, and it shows Omega, and she's like, like she just has this weird look.
Yeah, I don't know. I would say, if anything, I would take that as like that's Omega getting the idea to steal the chain code. Well, is it right when the clones
No, it's
come?
like after they've been stolen, and they're you remember whenever the clones, they see the clones running towards them, Omega has to grab them and run off.
It's prior to that.
Yeah, it's like right before that. It's like a blink and you miss it moment.
I would take that as like that's Omega getting the idea to take the chain codes, because she realizes that Tech and Echo can't do this on their own.
Yeah, I don't know. I just kind of like, there has to be a reason they showed her reaction to that like that, and I wonder if, after watching the episode, if that's just because she saw them make an extra chain code, like one more than they needed to, or if it's weird, something deeper than that. But I don't know. I think it's interesting because Hunter is kind of forming into this father figure for Omega now, because he basically wants what's best for her, and he wants her to go off and have this better life with Cutton and his family. You don't
deserve to be like in hiding with us.
Yeah, where do you think I know I asked this before, but knowing what we know now, where do you think we're going with Omega and her character? You think she's just going to become a member of the Bad Batch by the end, or you think something else is going to happen to her?
Probably. I think it'll end with her kind of making her peace into it, and that whatever the mystery is behind her, I think it will just kind of be like they'll figure it out, but they're not going to do much with it. They'll just kind of be like, we'll join our team, and we'll just be, I bet you they'll become like rebels. I wouldn't be surprised if they joined like Saw Gerrera at the end, and they essentially become like the thing that they were in the wars, but for the rebellion, and they just become this A team for the rebels, if not Saw Gerrera.
Yeah, because we basically have this whole almost 20-year time span to explore.
Right.
Minus, I guess, the events of Rebels, because I think we would have seen them in Rebels if they were still around.
I don't necessarily know. While I kind of agree, you probably should have saw them. I don't necessarily. I think you could easily work around Rebels.
Or they'll find a way to, just put them in a different part of the galaxy during that time, or, I don't know. Do you think the Bad Batch will no longer exist by the end of the show, like the run of the show?
Exist as in,
meaning like being dead.
No.
Or like completely separated from each other.
Maybe
like a broken up band.
I think though is that like their whole thing is in this time of like turmoil, they have to stick together.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that they'll die. I don't know.
Yeah, it's tricky because right now they haven't really given us much as to alluding to their future.
Even though like we know what happens, we're still also learning like where everything's going with the Bad Batch. Like we have no idea how the Empire will be in this season.
I think the Empire is going to be, basically in full force by the end of this season. So
when do you think we will see stormtroopers?
I think that'll probably be either latter half of this season, or we'll get them next season if there is another season.
I'm thinking like the end of season 1 and then season 2 is all.
We're going to see the transition, and it would be interesting to see, these men get recruited for the Imperial Academy and stuff, and they kind of butt heads with clones because maybe the men are like belittling the clones because they're clones and they're like old technology and stuff. So it'd be interesting to see what they do with that. I wanted to ask you, that creature that is behind the barbed wire fence that almost gets Omega. What kind of creature was that? I know I've seen it before.
It's the tiger thing from Attack of the Clones. I can't think of the name.
Yeah, that's right.
It's the thing that claws Padme's back
from the Geonosis. Yeah. Okay. Because I was like, wait, that's not the lizard thing that Kenobi rides.
It's like a jag tooth or something. It's like a jag tooth like saber or whatever it's called.
Yeah. Well, is there anything else in this episode that kind of stood out to you that you wanted to talk about?
I actually want to. It's not even a big scene for me. I just thought it was very nice, but I really liked it's after that like tiger scene, whatever, when Hunter's kind of snapping at Omega, and Cut comes in. He's like, no, like this is a child, and instantly he's just like, are you okay? Like you're good, and it actually kind of it like made me kind of like get that like, oh, like I kind of was like like that's cute when she like hugs into him. She's like, I'm so sorry, and he's like, it's okay. He's like, there's no harm to it.
Yeah, as long as you're okay.
Yeah, it was just a very wholesome scene. It was just very cute seeing like, especially like someone who was a clone and is programmed to kind of react to talk to soldiers. It's interesting seeing a clone show more humanity than most humans.
Yeah, and Cut says, stop, she's not a soldier.
Yeah.
And by the end, Hunter says, you're right, she's not a soldier.
But even then, like Omega also learns, like she says to Hunter in the end, she's like, I know I make a lot of mistakes and I have a lot to learn. She's like, I have no disagreement with that. So it's like they both learned a valuable lesson of like Omega growing up, but like Hunter, I say growing down, but more like Hunter understanding that this person is learning and training.
Yeah, and I think they're still trying to get out of that clone soldier mindset.
I agree. You know,
trying to be a little more compassionate and human.
Being new people.
Yeah, basically, embracing their individuality and you know, just becoming their own. I think we'll definitely end up seeing that in this series too, of kind of their development as characters and kind of settling into their characters too. But I think one of my favorites of this episode, I don't know why, was Wrecker, because he's almost like the comedic relief.
Yeah.
But in like a really wholesome way. Especially when he's sitting there curling that gonk droid. I was cracking up that entire
like
time.
Frantically moving as he does it.
Yeah. And how he, you know, immediately comes in on the defense whenever he sees everyone's in trouble and stuff. It's just, I want a Wrecker. I want an Uncle Wrecker.
Yeah, that was, I like how even in random moments, the team's always kind of in tune, because like Hunter's like, you let her go by herself, and Wrecker was instantly, I'm on it. He's like, I'm out.
Yeah. And you know, that whole kind of battle / action sequence between some of those clones in the Bad Batch, whenever they come up, and I think it was Echo, and he's like, yeah, I'm maintenance. He's like, I think we got a situation here. Then he just gets yeeted. Yeah. But if you had to rate this episode out of 10, what would you give it?
I'd probably give this just like, I'd probably go like a casual 6 or 7, just because like it's very much like it was a filler episode, but I understood like what movements that they did to like progress like plot lines.
Yeah, I think you would still need to watch this episode in order to keep understanding what's going on.
It's a very like world building episode. It was focused on establishing what like life is like now, since there's this new empire.
Yeah, and it helps us understand Omega a little bit more, and it kind of gets us. It's a little more contained character piece.
It was just kind of minimal work and additions that they needed for their characters, and then so I'm almost expecting the next one to slap. I think the next episode will be something big.
I hope we'll get Rex in the next one, but I think my rating of this would probably somewhere, like you said, in the probably closer to 7 or 8, just because I liked all of the little lessons we get in this, and you know, the world building and character building. I thought it was really, really well done, and I'm excited to see what we get next Friday, because we have to actually wait a week now and not just 2 days.
Now we actually have to sit normal.
Yeah. So, well, cool. Thank you guys so much for watching this shorter episode of The Batch Report. And if you want to find us on our social medias, we are on Instagram at @ThroughImperializedPod, and on Twitter at ImperializedPod, and on YouTube. If you're watching, you're already here. And if you're not, you can just search us up through Imperialized Podcast. Jackson, where can they find you?
As always, you can find me on Twitter at QuacksandScaling. That's QUACKSON and scaling like the triangle. And then you can follow my photography Instagram, Daleen_photography. Daleen spelled DALEEN and then _photography. Braydon, what about you?
And if you would like to find me on the socials, you can find me on Instagram at braydonleadbetter and on Twitter at braydathlon. And guys, please make sure to don't be shy.
Don't be shy.
Don't be shy. Leave that rating and review on Apple Podcasts if you have it. It really helps out the show. And if you don't, follow us on Spotify, any of those podcast streaming platforms. It really helps us out. And if you didn't know, we're having it's not our last Cantina this weekend, but we're taking a little hiatus from Cantina to focus on Bad Batch and other things like that. So check out our Rise of Skywalker episode of Imperial Cantina coming out this weekend.
Finishing our movie saga.
Our Skywalker
Cantina.
saga,
Yeah,
kind of. Yeah, we'll be discussing that this weekend, and then we'll also be back with another news episode on Thursday. So please tune in for that, and until then, may the Force be with you.